Hello, I'm Stemly K, your hostess to the world of STEM, and today I'm here with Mamta. So, first, I just want to start with your educational background. So, could you talk about that and if STEM had any influence on it?
Absolutely. I went to school for aerospace engineering for undergraduate. So first, I should say I all of my primary education was in public schools out in a small town in West Texas. From there, I made the decision, and I was
Mhm.
lucky enough to have parents that enabled me to make the decision to go
Yeah.
to college. And then I was able to leave town to go to a bigger university where the opportunities were greater, and that was at Texas A&M University,
Mhm.
where I majored in aerospace
That's
engineering.
awesome.
I took that major not knowing what engineering was. So similar to you, I had
Mhm.
never really known anybody in the fields, and nobody really came to a small town in West Texas to talk
Yeah.
about engineering or science. I picked it because a teacher told me I should be one, but didn't really tell me what an engineer was.
Mhm.
So I sort of spent the first couple years of college figuring out what it was. And I ended up landing a student program at NASA, which is when
That's
I
great.
really learned what it was because I got hands on
Mhm.
and I was exposed to actual engineers and scientists. So I really got an idea for what STEM was once I got to
Mhm.
NASA. And that was what was then called the NASA Co op program. And it's now the NASA internship program or the NASA Pathways
Mhm.
program. So that was all during undergraduate. I decided at that time to make the decision to not pursue a full time position. I was offered, I said, no, I'm going to go to graduate
Mhm.
school. So I continued on to get my master's and my PhD, the master's in mechanical engineering and the PhD in
Wow.
bioengineering. So it's a path not very often
Yeah.
taken to switch fields, but it's kind of reflective of my personality and what I find to be the personality of many young girls, where you just
Mhm.
have lots of different interests and
Exactly.
you kind of want to dabble in all these different things. You're maybe interested in fashion and art, but you also are really good at math and science, and you
Mhm.
learn about science and you think science is really fun, but you're not sure really like which ones are going to end up at
Yeah.
careers. Yeah, so that's sort of reflective of my personality in the way I did my career. Even what I'm doing today has nothing to
Mhm.
do with bioengineering, mechanical engineering, or aerospace engineering. So, just for all the young women out there listening, anybody actually, what you end up doing in life may not be directly lined with what you go to school for,
Mhm.
but what you go to school for will teach you how to think, especially if it's in the sciences and the engineering, and it'll really teach you how to problem solve. So how to understand what the issue is, and then how to come at that issue with multiple solutions, and then work with
Yep.
teammates. So all of those are just general life skills that you can use no matter what you do.
So, after your incredible STEM education, what careers did that lead you to, and could you talk about the specifics of some of them?
Yeah, so some of the different things I've been able to do when I was a PhD student, I was doing pure science. So in the laboratory with the lab
Mhm.
coats and the goggles and gloves and all of that. So that was like the typical of what I was doing and what I was exposed to. That's a very
Mhm.
academic platform. So if you're looking to be a professor, you're looking to do research, that's really what that job is
Mhm.
about. I also ended up doing what I would call operations engineering. So that's when I got to NASA after my PhD with my full time position. And an operations engineer, you can think of it like this. So there's an engineer, let's say at Boeing,
Mhm.
who actually designs an airplane, figures out how the airplane goes together, what the design's going to be, what it's going to look like. When I say design, it's
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, the function of the shape of the wings, and how that lets the airplane fly and how well it flies. Then there's the pilot who operates the airplane. So let's say you, as an
Mhm.
engineer, design the airplane so that part X,
Yeah.
lights up whenever you press the rudder. But when the pilot gets in there, he realizes, when I press the rudder, that doesn't light up.
Mhm.
He's actually operating it. And sometimes things don't operate the way you plan for things to be
Yeah.
designed when you're engineering it. So that's what an operations person does. So I did that in mission control, if you've heard of that, down in Houston, Texas.
Mhm.
And that's where if there's humans in space, that's where we're controlling everything. So with the International Space Station, that's where we control everything from the ground. And that's mission control in Houston,
That's
Texas.
so
And
cool.
so all of those people in there are engineers. And if something goes wrong in space, we are in charge of fixing it while we're here down on Earth with some assistance from the astronauts on board. So that's one of the careers that it's led me to. I've also designed an instrument for a mission to Venus. So that means you have to understand the
Wow.
atmosphere of Venus. Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have to really think about it, because the materials we have here on Earth are made on Earth with the limitations of what we have in our atmosphere here. But Venus is very different. It's got a very caustic atmosphere. It's completely different from our own planet, obviously, and doesn't harbor life like we do. But all of our materials are made for Earth. So you really have to think about, when you design something to go into space, the environment is totally different. So those are the sorts of things that as an engineer you're thinking about. So when I said you learn about problem solving, well, here's your problem. You want to send something to Venus to learn about it, but you only have stuff that's been designed for Earth. So how do you do it? So that's an example of a career where you might have to tackle a problem that's literally out of this world. So that would be a fun thing to do if you enjoy problem solving. Today I do what we call science engagement and science communication. So that's really about, how do you tap into these into something like inspiration? How do you motivate people to go and do something, and particularly do something with science and engineering? Yeah, how do you engage people? How do you get them interested? How do you find that spark that makes them go, huh, never thought about it before, but now I'm interested in putting on my safe solar viewing glasses and go watch the total solar eclipse. Like, how do you do that? How do you tap into that inspiration? So that's sort of the challenge that I come to. And while it's not a technical challenge, and it's not something like designing an instrument, it is a challenge, because every single person is different, and what motivates you isn't what motivates me. So it's actually a really cool problem to solve, if you will.
So what, out of all of these different STEM jobs that you've had, what is something that you've learned through the process?
Oh, that almost every single thing you do requires you to work with other people. And when you work with other people, you learn a lot about yourself. So how patient are you? How do you get something done when a teammate isn't responding or isn't pulling his or her own weight? Are you the type of person that's just going to say, okay, forget it, I'm just going to do it myself? Or are you going to help with them? Are you going to bring them up and motivate them? So you really learn a lot about yourself, your own leadership style, how to work with people, how other people work together. You also learn, like, when you get people from different backgrounds and you tackle a problem together, it is so much better than having to do it by yourself or a bunch of people like you. So when you get diversity of thoughts and opinions and problem solving, it's a lot easier and you're a lot more successful. So it's probably something I've learned just along the way.
So with your career today, with your involvement in trying to get people interested in STEM, what are some of the really positive things that you might have seen, but also some of the challenges that you're still trying to overcome?
Yeah, so a lot of the positives, and I'll use the total solar eclipse as an example. We had thought that people would be really interested. We knew this was a different time frame in history when an eclipse was happening across the U.S. with so many different people in our own country that would be able to view it. So we thought it would be big, but we didn't know how big. I mean, there was no way to predict. We communicate especially your generation, in ways that are totally different than the past. And there's so much more technology available today. So the positives of that were how many millions of people in our own nation actually got out and watched nature and watched science and this phenomenon of that. And so that was super exciting, that people were so engaged, so excited about it. There were no incidents. There were no acts of violence during it. It was just a peaceful way of being with nature. And really embraced that. That was super exciting. And we've seen that with other things, like when Curiosity landed on Mars back in 2012. We sort of saw that as well, but the landscape was different. Live streaming wasn't that big. Twitter wasn't nearly as big as it is today. Facebook wasn't as big. I mean, they all existed, but they just weren't at the level that they are today. And so the stories keep coming in, just the different media and the different ways people have captured the eclipse. It's been exciting. And to see a generation of youngsters get out there with their telescopes, and their solar filters, and they're looking at, just absolutely incredible to be able to be part of that. The challenges, of course, are kind of what I mentioned before. There are so many different people and so many different thoughts and so many different beliefs. And so trying to mend all of those together and really focus on the science. And science is all about data, numbers, things that you can't really refute. They're fact. where it's not trapped is how you interpret that, and there's healthy discussion among scientists on how you interpret data, but you always have the challenges of how people interpret data.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the overall challenges, I'd say, in science.
So, what would you say to girls that want to pursue engineering?
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, seriously, don't ever think that you can't do it. It's not. This is what I always say to young girls. It is okay to go and investigate all the different areas that you have a passion for. Engineering, arts, graphics, fashion, whatever it is that you're interested in. And then as long as you go out and you investigate all of them, whatever interests you, and then you choose something, and let's say it's not in STEM, that's okay, because you investigated STEM. You thought you could do it. What's not okay is if a young girl, even today in 2017, doesn't look at science or engineering because she doesn't think she can, or she thinks that it's a man's world still. That's not okay to me. Then we're doing something wrong. I still have that perception. In some places we do still have that perception, to my shock. When I was your age, I thought for sure, I didn't even pay attention to people when they talked to us, because I thought, oh, by the time I get there, this will be done. This will be taken care of. This will be fixed. And here I am, 37 years old, and we're still talking about it. We're still talking about it. So that's frustrating for me to know that it takes this long to see change. It takes generations to see change of this scale. But I think what I would tell young women is go out. You can do anything you want to do. So first of all, don't think that just because you see a bunch of men in that field, it doesn't mean that there aren't women. Hopefully you will see the women there. But even if there are only men, that doesn't mean you can't do it. Go and do it. Investigate it. Look at all of your different interests, and then pick the one that's going to make you happy. Pick the one that fits you the best. And only you and your gut can really tell you if that's what's for you. It's also okay if you start college and you don't know what you want to be. That's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know what you want to be, but if you don't know, you'll figure it out. When the time is right, you'll know. Even if you graduate from college, you have an awesome degree, but you still aren't sure what you want to be, you'll be okay. It'll be okay. You'll figure it out. Even if mom or dad don't think you'll be okay, you will be okay.
So, what is one thing that in the future you see STEM creating or allowing that you're excited about?
Ooh, I'd say probably the future of where technology is headed. And I honestly, my husband and I will talk about this. I'll be like, what do you think our kids won't have to do someday in the future because technology has taken over? Do you think our children will even have TVs, or will it all be in Google goggles? We wonder about this. But in order to get to those technologies, it's going to take the next generation, your generation of engineers and scientists. I also think, so my PhD's in biomedical engineering, I also think on the flip side, what I'm looking forward to seeing is what biomedical engineers and doctors will be able to do, and researchers will be able to do medicine, and where we're going to go, and hoping that we'll have better ways to fight cancer and things that are taking, especially our young children, that we should be able to do something about that with as much intelligence and the brains in this country, we should, in this world, really, we should be able to do something about those hard-hitting diseases and those pathophysiologies. So I'm looking forward to see what medicine and the medical field has in store for us. And it's come a long way. If you look at all of the different machinery that biomedical engineers have designed, and they come from traditional engineering, because biomedical is a relatively new field. But a lot of the people who started it are mechanical and aerospace engineers and electrical engineers. If you look at the machines they've built, take a look at the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, all of those machines that keep our tiny, tiny babies alive until they're ready to be independent. That is thanks to biomedical engineering. So that's incredible what technology can do. So I'm excited to see what the next generation of engineers do.
Well, I want to thank Mamta for taking the time out of her day to speak with us about all things engineering and STEM and NASA. So again, I'm Stemly K, your hostess to the world of STEM. Bye!